Yeah. Yeah. It's been made smaller now, and then the rocket's there and stuff. So, for 20. You want to come in here? You have everything on. Yeah. Okay. Oops. So I've been going at Bart Sibrel pretty heavily, and I guess that the main reason why I find it easy to talk about Bart Sibrel is because I have a history dealing with him. But the other guy who's on the chopping block, and his name sounds suspiciously similar to Bart Sibrel, is Flint Dibble. Yeah, Flint Dibble is on the chopping block right now over at New Coke. Because Flint Dibble, you can talk all you want about what kind of seeds you find and what kind of no evidence for this, no evidence for that architecture that you want to come up with. But you can't explain the machining marks on the granite at Giza. And he won't. Flint Dibble will never touch that. By the way, he'll never answer to that. I guarantee you. If he does kind of give some kind of, blow it all off type of answer, then it will be the same garbage that's been getting parroted by, mainstream Egyptology for 100 years. But to give a real answer for the machining marks on the granite at Giza, Flint Dibble will never touch that. Guarantee you. Because it's too obvious to anybody that the stonework at Giza can't be done by the civilization that's claimed to have done it. It's too obvious. You know, those drawings that you saw in your history books of Egyptians pulling giant stone blocks up fucking ramps and stuff with ropes and everything, that didn't happen. Or if it did happen, it happened during the dynastic times, but the architecture we're actually talking about here and the granite stonework at the Giza Plateau is definitely pre-dynastic. Definitely pre-dynastic. Without any doubt in my mind. Because the vases that are at Giza that were found in 40,000-year-old tombs show the same type of, one, precision, and two, advanced level machining that we see on the stonework at the actual Giza Plateau site. And then the dynastic Egyptians came along later and scribbled all over everything and said, we made this, we made that, we made this, we made that. But really, they didn't make that stuff. That stuff's way older. If they're finding precision stonework vases in grave sites that are 40,000 years old, then I would venture to say at the time that those stone vases were buried in those grave sites, they already were relics. That's why they had the significance to bury them. Because they were important. And what makes a tiny little stupid vase important is knowledge of its origins. Its significance as a historical artifact. Oh, I want to be buried with a historical artifact. No, I would like to be buried with a hydro flask. You understand the difference? So, I would say that the stonework, the precision granite stonework, you might be able to put that in a ballpark of 40,000 years old. What did Egypt look like 40,000 years ago? I think it was just a tropical rainforest. You know, the type of pyramid kingdom that you would expect to see in South America now was what you might have seen in Egypt at the time of the construction of that stonework, except it much more grandiose stonework by a civilization that we don't know what it was. We don't know who they were. Were they aliens? No, probably not aliens. But I think that civilization came up and built these things. Men are smart enough to figure out how to build the pyramids. It's not going to be easy. It's a major industrial engineering feat. It's like going to the moon to build the pyramids and do Giza. It would require technology that is not currently invented. It would require dedicated teams of men, years and years and years to do it. There would be engineering departments. There would be design departments. There would be all this stuff going on for any of those granite stonework sites in Egypt, but particularly Giza and the Serapeum at Saqqara and stuff like that. And Flint Dibble will never touch this information. He'll never tell you why the stones are cut the way that they're cut, because it's not possible in his narrative. his narrative is that there is no advanced civilization from that time period. Well, then who did the Giza stonework? Well, it's the dynastic Egyptians. No, it's not the dynastic Egyptians. We've thoroughly debunked that claim. Thoroughly. The idea that the dynastic Egyptians built the pyramids, it has no credibility whatsoever. The pyramids are not 4,500 years old. They're older. They're much, much older. And other stonework across Giza is the same way. People say, well, look at the water erosion on the Sphinx. Okay, but the Sphinx is not even that impressive. Okay, it was cut from limestone. It's super old. We know it's super old because its body shows signs of rainfall erosion. And that type of rainfall has not occurred in Egypt for about 12,000 years. So, or 10,400 years or something like that. That was the last time it rained in Egypt to do the type of erosion that it did to the Sphinx body. Not the Sphinx head. Because the Sphinx head is much newer. The Sphinx head is probably dynastic Egyptian. It's... Yeah, the commissions. Yeah, commissions, baby. The commissions. Why do... So, that's another thing, just for me to clarify for people, and then also for you, I tell you about. That basically...
Oh, we use a different fridge now.
We do?
We use the white one by the... I had to move it.
Okay.
I didn't finish cleaning up. I cleaned up the purchase drawer.
So Kemet is the black land, and that means, in that language, it means the fertile or the black land. And that happens because once a year or whatever, the Nile floods. And when the Nile floods, it deposits a bunch of very, very rich, black, fertile soil to the Giza area. So the people who lived there before, we don't really know who they were, what they looked like. I mean, it's probable that they dressed the way that the dynastic Egyptians dress. The way that I would say to get an understanding of what these people may have looked like would be to look at the Ramses statues scattered all throughout Egypt. The ones with the perfectly precise mirror image symmetry in the statue carving. They're made out of very hard stone. They're made out of like granite and basalt and shit like that, like stuff you can't really cut through very easily without diamond machinery today. Like today, think about your kitchen. If you have a granite slab kitchen counter, even that is like weak sauce granite compared to what these statues are carved out of. And that counter is pretty strong. Try to break that counter, try to cut that counter, try to get a knife, try to get anything and make a mark in that counter if you have granite. And you're going to quickly find out how hard it is to cut granite. And these statues are perfectly symmetrical, mirror image, computer, so that's probably what they looked like, and the dynastic Egyptians probably patterned their look after what the original commissions looked like. But we don't know who they were, where they came from, and where they went. They were probably wiped out in some kind of a cataclysm, the same cataclysm that we see present all throughout. Yeah. Dead. It dead. How'd that happen? That's what you want? That thing gone. Is it gone or... So if Flint Dibble wants to talk about, the science and the research of all this stuff has come such a long way since Zawi Hawass was relevant. Zawi Hawass is not relevant anymore in the modern era, everybody. The time when Zawi Hawass was relevant is the era of Walter Cronkite, the era of network television. Because the people that we were presented with, there were only a couple of people in the whole culture that we said, oh, look at this guy, Zawi Hawass, he knows a lot about Egypt. He's going to put him on every documentary, every show, blah, 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 blah. He's the director of antiquities in Egypt at the Giza Plateau. He's the head guy in Egyptology. Well, this was 20 years ago. We live in a different age now, Zawi, and you're no longer considered credible. And your narrative of, hundreds of slaves dragging multi-ton granite slabs hundreds of miles over mountains is ridiculous, and everyone knows that now. So now the question is, well, how did they cut the granite for real? And there's people looking into that. I don't know what I think of Chris Dunn, though. I recently watched him on Joe Rogan, and I thought he sounded like a crank, to be honest with you. I think he's a crank. It doesn't change the fact that that the pyramids were made with machining, and those megalithic areas were made with machining. It just says that Chris Dunn might not be the best guy to listen to on all this. And if the pyramid's not a power plant like Chris Dunn hypothesized, then we might want to try to figure out what it was, because it's probably something else. Just not big on Giza power plant anymore. I don't know what the fuck those things were, but they're not tombs. That's obvious. And they're built with machining that's not. You can't do that anymore. They're actually carved out of the bedrock. So, what we doing today?